1. This story has always been particularly hard for me to tell, but I think I'm ready to finally post it. I guess you can take it as advice. Don't let people who you date online know where you live. Let me just start with saying that I was about 17 when this happened in 2014. I was living with my sister Katie, who was 25. She's a great girl, really smart, caring, and funny. I love her, and she's honestly one of my best friends. She is a bit boy crazy though. Being a tall, tan blonde girl, she got many swipes and likes on dating apps and websites. At bars and even at the store, many men would flirt with her. She always was going to meet guys and going on dates. Not a lot of them really went anywhere though. She would always come home and say they were too overbearing, too boring, too annoying, whatever. Then one stuck. His name was Darius. I remember the first date in 2013, late June. He came over and met me and actually took my sister, our 3 step-siblings, and I to the movies. I was impressed that he was so kind to our family and loved the kids so much. Soon a week of dating turned from a week to a month. We went to the casino that was nearby where we went shopping and out for dinner. It was honestly the most fun I've ever had. He took me to the arcade and won me a lot of tickets. Then, that month turned into 4 months. He took me and my step-siblings to one of the wealthier towns, and we went trick-or-treating. He was black, which was a surprise for my parents, but it's not like they cared, really. He was respectful to our parents, and showered in gifts. My sister was convinced he was the one. They went on weekend trips, and he joined us on our Christmas vacation to Naples, Florida, where our grandparents had a house. At that point, they had been dating for 5 months, their 6-month anniversary being on New Year's Eve. We were having such a fun time. I remember we had just walked from the beach, and they were in their room. I heard him yelling at her, but I couldn't make out what he was saying because the doors were so heavy. I thought it was just a typical relationship fight. I carried on and went into my room. I was chilling on my bed and watching some prank YouTube video when I heard a smash. It was quiet and muffled. I waited a couple seconds and put my iPad down. Walking out of my room, I saw my sister storming out of her bedroom crying. I walked into the bedroom to find Darius cleaning up a broken vase smashed on the floor. I asked what happened, and he said my sister accidentally pushed it off the dresser when putting her bag on the top. I shrugged and walked back to my room. Later that night, it was around 2 a.m. I was still awake, but the rest of my family was asleep. I heard a knock at the door, and it was Katie. She walked in and sat down in my bed. I closed the door and sat next to her. She was crying. I just don't know what to do. Darius threw that vase at me, she said in a hushed voice. What? I almost yelled, but she shushed me. He said I was looking at some guy playing volleyball when we were at the beach. I wasn't even looking. I was just watching the game. I don't know what to do. She cried into my shoulder and swallowed me into a hug. At first I felt sadness that she was so hurt, but then I became angry. The guy got jealous, so he decided to scream at her and throw a vase at her. I asked her to describe completely what happened in the bedroom, and she said they were arguing, and he grabbed the vase off the dresser and threw it at her when she was hanging clothes up in the closet. Luckily, she moved out of the way in time for it not to hit her. I told her that she had to break up with him, and she agreed. We set a day. about a week after the vacation for her to break up with him. For the rest of the vacation, Darius was tense and distant from the family. The breakup did not go well. He begged for her to take him back through texts for about a week. She blocked his number, and he proceeded to call the house phone over and over again, leaving voicemails. After a month, Katie disconnected the phone, not only to rid the constant calls from Darius, but to save money. This was around early February. Everything had calmed down and gone back to normal. Katie had gone back to meeting some guys on dating websites and was going out a lot. In early April, the shit hit the fan. All of a sudden, Katie started getting disgusting texts from out of state and in-state numbers saying they would kill her, mutilate her, rape her, etc. Then I started receiving texts that also involved my sister. The mysterious persons, saying they would bound us both up and do unspeakable things to both of us. We blocked every number that texted us. These texts were coming in multiple times a day. A new number every time. I figured they were probably being sent through an app like Text Free or something like that. My sister called the non-emergency police line and was basically told that they couldn't do anything about it, and that we just had to keep blocking them. They would stop soon. One night in late April, Katie, our 3 siblings, and I were playing some board game and eating chips with dip. It was probably 8 o'clock. We heard a knock at the door and my sister asked me if I was expecting anyone. I told her no, and she had a puzzled look on her face. She got up, opened the door, but nobody was on the front porch. She closed it, relocked it, and walked back over to the table. Suddenly, we heard a loud bang in the garage. I looked over at my sister, wide-eyed, who quickly tiptoe ran to the door, to the garage, and locked it. She looked over at her stepbrother, Jake, and asked if he had left the garage door open when he put his bike away. He said yeah. My sister grabbed her cell phone and said to come upstairs. We all got up quietly, followed her upstairs, and went into the master bedroom. She told me to go under the bed and put my little siblings into the closet. I heard a loud ruckus downstairs, which was actually the breaking of the door handle of the door leading into the house from the garage. I heard footsteps go around the downstairs, checking every room. Then I heard the footsteps going up the stairs, slowly and quietly. I heard the person walk into the room, about 3 feet from where my head was. I peeked from the corner of the bed, where the bed skirt wasn't blocking, and saw it was Darius. He started screaming at Katie, demanding to know why she left him, and why she wouldn't answer his texts. What texts? She asked, and he said, "The texts I've been sending you for months." I covered my mouth and cried silently. This guy was obviously unstable and dangerous. I truly felt like I was going to die or be hurt in some way. He started screaming at her, and she cried loudly. Then he grabbed her and hit her against the wall, pinning her against it. "You fucking whore! You left me so you could fuck other guys, didn't you?" He yelled as she cried and gasped for air. He was grabbing her neck. He picked up her head just to slam it into the wall again, and told her about how dumb he thought she was. Then he stopped screaming and looked around the room. "Where are the kids?" he asked, and she managed to croak out, "They're not here." "Bullshit," he yelled, slamming her head into the wall. I was praying that the neighbors were home. My sister lives in a condo, and he was smashing her into the shared wall. "I know they're in here. And if you keep lying, I'm going to kill you and the kids," he yelled. And he tightened his grip on her neck. "Now are you going to tell me where the fuck they are?" He screamed again, grabbing her and pushing her onto the floor. Suddenly, I heard a shout from the condo next door. I'm calling the damn cops! Well, with that, Darius looked over at the wall and sprinted out, down the stairs, and unlocking the door. We heard the front door slam and my sister ran over to the window. Crying, she told us we could come out, and I crawled out from under the bed and hugged her. My siblings ran out of the closet crying, and ran over to us. We could hear the sirens coming closer. They interviewed all of us, even the neighbor who called the police, and we could all identify who it was. The dumbass left his car sitting at the end of the street. They found him a couple days later at his mom's house and arrested him. He got charged with home invasion, strangulation, assault, risk of injury, and disorderly conduct. It was one of the scariest moments of my life, and I'll never forget it. The feeling of having someone you once trusted so much go and do these unspeakable things is something I never wish to feel again. My sister is okay now, and doesn't go on dates with people she meets online anymore. Unfortunately, because my parents thought that my sister wasn't being responsible enough and let us get in harm's way, I had to move back in with them. My sister and I never talked about it much again, so I don't know if he went to prison, got out of prison yet, or is just on parole. I would ask her, but I don't want to put her through the memory again. Especially now that she is in a very loving relationship with a very successful guy, and they're happy. I just hope Darius doesn't come back. 2. So about a week ago, I'm eating dinner with my mother and my sister, when she all of a sudden says, "Hey Brad, have you been leaving to school late?" I get super confused and say no, as I always leave with my sis at 6 a.m. She then told me and my sis how she hears our doorknob shaking at exactly 6:30 a.m. every day. I get super tense, as from reading L&M stories, this is usually really bad. After remembering stories how creeps would open doors and hide somewhere for ages and not come out, I get super scared. I am literally shitting bricks at this point. Okay, not really, but you get the point. I immediately check every nook and cranny of our apartment, to the point where my searching would have exceeded the capability of an ATF house raid search. Luckily I find nothing. Thank God. Then my mother tells me, "Oh, don't worry, I'm sure the doorknob only shook, it didn't open." I was like, holy craps, why did you tell me this after I searched my apartment? After that, I go outside and throw the trash. I always throw my trash at 7:30 p.m. I'm pretty nitpicky about it. I don't know why. A couple days pass and I ask my mother if the doorknob still shakes at 6:30 a.m. and she says that it stopped. Feeling relieved, I resume my day normally and forget all about it. This is where shiz gets real. The next day we finish dinner and I go to my room. Once you enter our front door, to the front is a hallway with doors for our rooms. To the left is our dining room. And to the right is our dining table where we eat. Yes, we eat right next to our door. Anyway, I forget to throw the trash, so once it is 7:30 p.m., I am still in my room, and my mother and sister are still at the dining room. I'm playing League of Legends, and was in a ranked game, when all of a sudden, "Ah!" I hear both my mother and sister scream. Now my mother and sister never scream, even when they get scared, so I knew this was important. I say fudge League of Legends. Ranked is not going to make me switch my priorities. I grab my knife next to me. Yes, I carry a knife for protection. It has come in handy multiple times. And head into the hallway. As soon as I am in the hallway, my eyes widen, and I'm struck frozen in shock. Now I am Asian, and I admit my eyes are small, but my eyes widened so much in fright that I could have used them as pool balls. My heart sank harder than the Titanic from the sight I was seeing. A black male, maybe late 20s, was standing in our home, with our door wide open. I was so shocked I almost dropped my knife. Knowing that this situation was high stakes and life or death, I gathered all the manliness left inside me and said in a deep voice many obscenities. I will try to give you a cleaner version. You got 5 seconds to get out of my house before I skin you alive and hang you from the balcony. I obviously said some extremely vulgar words mixed into that, but for Reddit's sake, I won't put it in. The man responded with, "Hey, I'm just trying to sell some newspapers." I already know that this is bullshit, as a real person who sells newspapers wouldn't open someone's friggin' door without asking. Also, he had no newspapers on him. What the fuck was he thinking? I immediately say, 5, 4, and he just says, okay, I'm leaving. You won't see me again. Bye. And then he left, without closing my door. I chased after him and told him if he came back I'd... Okay. Before I get out of hand, I'ma stop there. I go back inside and my parents congratulate me for being brave. We haven't called the police, but I think I will soon. What I'm thinking is the guy was noticing that I leave at 6 a.m, so he tries to get in our home at 6:30. Sadly, we lock our doors, but we unlock it during dinner time so I can throw the trash. Maybe because 6:30 wasn't working, he stopped, and then noticed I leave at 7:30 p.m. to throw the trash. So maybe he thought 7:30 would work. Sadly it did, but luckily I was home. I don't know what would have happened if my laziness didn't make me stay home. So to the man supposedly selling newspapers, without even bringing any, let's not meet, or I'll seriously hang you from my balcony. 3. It started almost exactly 3 years ago. It'll be 3 years in August, when I was a freshman in university. I had gotten hired in a student job on campus, and I was super happy since I lived at the dorms and didn't have a car, so I wouldn't have been able to drive anywhere for a job. My first day at work, I met the students I'd be working with. Some of them had been there for a couple years, and others were just hired just like me. One of them was this guy named Ronnie. Ronnie and I got along right away. He was nice and funny, and I didn't feel awkward or uncomfortable talking to him. That lasted for about 2 days. A couple of days after we first met, he added me on Facebook and started messaging me. A lot. He'd ask me about my day and what I did, and what I loved, and all those questions to get to know someone. And maybe I'm just a jerk, but I didn't feel like becoming besties with him, so I soon started feeling somewhat annoyed. I didn't mind talking to him at work, but outside of work, I didn't want to be chatting with him 24/7. This went on for a few weeks. Even if I took hours to reply, he'd respond right away, or even if I short messaged, he'd reply with a whole paragraph. He could not get a hint. He asked me out several times before I finally said, okay, and we went out for ice cream. That's when it got really weird. He started asking questions about the guys I hung out with. At first I was just answering casually, like, oh, my friends from high school, or my cousins, or the guys from church. But then I realized he was asking about specific guys. Like he said something about, that guy you went to watch a movie with last Thursday, who was that? That completely freaked me out, and I just cut this ice cream hangout short, saying I had to go home, my dorm. It just went downhill from there. He'd message me every single night, asking about the people I talked to that day, or why I looked sad walking out of my class. I wasn't ever sad. That was just my face. At work, he'd leave little notes on my desk, or One Direction cutouts. I mentioned to him I loved One Direction, or chocolates. My co-workers just teased and said he had a huge crush on me, not knowing how creepy he was being outside of work. I started seeing him everywhere. I'd see him sitting near the exit when I'd be walking out of my classes, or if I was late night studying at a library on campus. I'd see him sitting a few tables away. Back then I was kind of naive, and just let this happen. I finally knew it had gone too far when one day, one of my guy friends from high school, whom I hadn't seen since we had graduated months before, had come into the office and stayed talking to me. We talked for about an hour or so. That night I got a message from Ronnie. "Are you okay?" he asked. "Yes. Why do you always ask if I'm okay?" I replied. He then responded with, "Some guy was standing in front of your desk for like an hour today. I thought maybe he was giving you trouble." Ronnie was not scheduled that day, so I never saw him in the office, but apparently he had been watching me. Our office is in front of this food court, and my desk was facing the court. A lot of people eating can be looking inside. That being said, I realized that Ronnie most likely always sat down and watched me, even at work when he wasn't scheduled. I replied with, "He's my friend whom I haven't seen in months, but you don't need to worry or care." I put my phone away and ignored his replies till the next morning, when I saw he had messaged like 30 times. His messages were how he had gotten very jealous and hates seeing me with other guys. And I remind him of his ex-girlfriend who had cheated on him with his friend, and how pissed he got about that, so since I remind him of her, I get him pissed off sometimes and he can't help it. He went off on how depressed he was and how his jealousy and anger gets worse when he sees me with any guy, and how he will one day hurt the guys, or hurt me, or hurt himself. That was it for me. I showed these messages to my managers at work, and they said they'd take care of it. I blocked him from Facebook and ignored him in person. This was all throughout my first semester of university. A few months later, he had made a new account on Facebook and messaged me again. He was saying how sorry he was and that he was better now, and he'd love to be friends. I accepted his apology and said I was glad for him that he was better, but that we couldn't be friends, and I wasn't interested in being his friend. He got angry and messaged me a lot of things. I blocked him again. Every few months he makes a new account and adds me and messages me. I always deny his friend request and block his messages. The most recent he has tried to contact me was 2 days ago. I saw his message but didn't reply. I'm not holding a grudge or anything. I'm like so over the whole ordeal with him, but I don't understand why he keeps trying. Like, Ronnie, get a hint. I don't want to meet you again. Hey everyone, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 3 True Scary Stories, episode 98. Well, episode 100 just around the corner. Right, I'll try and put together a slightly longer video. I'll do what I did with episode 50. You know, just longer stories, but we'll still keep the 3. Otherwise, it wouldn't be 3 True Scary Stories now, would it? Right, let me think. Rest of the week. I do like to keep you guys informed about that sort of thing. Well, right now Tuesday is a bit of a jumble. I'm hoping for either a subscriber stories video. I've got 4 right now. If I get another one, there'll be subscriber stories. If not that, then possibly either a Tinder video or a glitch video. I've got a couple of stories already for each, and I'm continually trying to source for future videos for that anyway, so maybe I'll have enough by then. Worst case scenario, more True Scary Stories. Yay! Okay, with that, I'm gonna go give my little voice a rest. I don't know if you can hear it, but it's starting to sound a bit rough right now. I've been recording for oh Jesus, that's yeah, I've been recording for over 3 hours. I didn't realize I've been doing it that long. Okay, so until next time. Oh, and before I go, actually, I can see those subscriber numbers are jumping up quite happily there, and I just wanted to thank you all for that. I want to thank you all for, if you're a new subscriber, thank you very much. Hopefully you take your shoes off and stick around a while. And if you're an old subscriber, thank you very much for sticking with me. I know, I say that a lot, but it really does mean so very much to me that you guys choose to watch my videos, because there's so many other narrators out there right now, and I'm just so appreciative of everyone who chooses to hit that subscribe button on my channel. I truly, truly am. Okay, and with that, I'm going to leave you. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.